guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kristi Martin, and this year I did my student teaching in West Palm Beach, Florida. I am officially done with student teaching, so I figured this would be a good time to give my tips that I would say I have learned from student teaching, maybe for all of you who are about to go into your student teaching year or semester, they might be helpful for you. These are just some of the things that I've learned and that I wanted to share with you guys. When I was student teaching, I did one semester in private school and one semester in public school. So I did a full year of student teaching. So I'm going to make a video probably later on the difference between my two semesters, just if you're interested in the difference between private schools and public schools, at least as an experience from a student teacher's perspective. But today I'm going to give you 10 tips that I learned while I was student teaching. I did write them down because I didn't want to forget them. The first tip would be to stay organized. So would that be a planner, if that's a planner, or that could be a folder that you keep everything in so that you can go back and refer to the lessons that you've done and the materials that you used. I really liked using a planner. I used one planner for like my college stuff because I had assignments going on over there, and then I used another planner for my school, my actual placement. So when I started teaching, I would write down all the things that we were going to do and the materials that I would need and things like that in that planner. So I had two kind of planners going on, but I really like to stay organized because you're expected to have the materials and the lessons ready, and so you don't want to forget anything. You don't want to forget a day you're teaching a certain subject or a week you're doing this and that. It goes really fast, plus you have all your college assignments that you don't want to be late, right? Because you want to get a good grade. The second one that I found important would be to build relationships. Obviously, you're going to build a relationship with your mentor teacher, but I also found that building relationships with the students was honestly the best part, number one. But number two, super, super important. They have to feel like they can trust you, that they can go to you. And honestly, when you're observing your first 2 weeks, maybe, if that's how your program works, the kids are going to start coming to you for things like Band-Aids and cleaning up spills and extra water and things like that because you're an extra helping hand in the room. So they are automatically start connecting with you, which is really awesome. Then when you go to teach, they have that relationship with you, and it just makes your lessons that much easier and better, and they build respect and trust with you, and you can teach them the content better because you know a little bit about them, you know what they enjoy, things like that. So go ahead, start off the bat and build those relationships. The third tip that I learned was to ask lots of questions. Remember, you are going into a classroom that is not your own. So, therefore, you do not have the right to go in and be like, we need to change this, we need to change this, all this stuff if you don't agree with something, right? But I found that asking questions is a good way to help guide maybe what you want to happen or what you would like to see or what you would like to try. If you see a specific thing and you're not really sure why the teacher is doing it that way, ask the question. Sometimes these teachers don't even realize why they're doing stuff the way they're doing stuff either. So then they'll be like, oh, I don't know why this didn't work for this student. Do you have any suggestions? And then there's your in. There's your in to give your fresh ideas, some of the strategies you might have learned in your classes and you want to try. So never be afraid to ask questions, because honestly, questions don't really offend people, and that's what I found out, and it was great, and I learned a lot, because sometimes I'm not experienced, so when the teacher answered my question, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Obviously, that's why she's doing what she's doing, and now I understand, right? It's always good for clarification. My fourth tip would be to take the pressure off your lessons. Not every lesson has to be the best lesson. Honestly, didn't really understand this because we had practicum classes before where we would go into schools like once a week. We would do one lesson, and it had to be a great lesson because our professors were only observing that one, and this was our time to shine. We had weeks to prep for it. Okay, that's kind of unrealistic when you're doing student teaching because you're teaching every single day multiple lessons. So they're not all going to be like this home run, like awesome lesson with all these hands-on materials and things like that. It's just not realistic to do 5 lessons like that in one day, right? So pick the one you really want to do that's cool for the day, or pick the 2 lessons, and then the other ones, they can just be okay. They don't have to be like spectacular, because remember, you're also doing classes on top of a full-time job, right? So just remember that, take the pressure off. Once I realized that, it took me a little while, I was like, oh, this is great, and the kids are fine and they're loving it and they're still learning, and we had that really exciting moment of the day, but not everything has to be that exciting, right? My tip for number 5 would be to remember this is not your own classroom. So I found this helpful to remember when I was a little bit frustrated. I was a little bit frustrated of the restrictions I had or the area I had to stay in, because these were the guidelines set before me for this specific subject or this specific lesson, or I was, told what to do. Well, remember, this isn't your own classroom. Next year, when you're a first-year teacher, that's your time to create and really make it your own. You have your own behavior management system that you want to create, things like that. You're building that classroom community that's going to be yours. So it's going to be a lot different. So when I was kind of frustrated or losing my joy in certain areas of teaching, because I was put under those restrictions because I'm a student teacher. It's not my classroom, right? So that's okay. But I remembered, no, I still have a love for teaching. I would do this differently next year, but remember, it's not my own classroom. So that's good going into it. Yeah, you do take over the whole class, but that doesn't mean there's not guidance, because there has to be guidance because you're learning. All right, tip number 6 is to sleep. So I found myself sometimes late at night prepping things for the next day, doing things like this, and I would get a little bit of sleep. Well, the next day was not so good. My patience level was like a 0. So when you get sleep, you are able to have a lot more patience, a lot more kindness. I don't know. I just felt like sleep was super important. So my second semester, I decided to prioritize that. I went to bed at like 8:30 or 9 every night, almost, because I would wake up really early, and it was so much better. It was so much better to just be well rested for the next day, and I just felt like I could be my best self in the classroom, unlike some of the days in my first semester where I walked in and I was just like, oh my goodness, I need this day to be over. So sleep, sleep, sleep. Number 7 is to be prepared. So the teachers are expecting you to teach the lessons. When they give you a subject, you're planning the lessons, you need to be prepared with all the materials. Now, I couldn't do this as much in my second semester because we had the hybrid model where some kids were in person and some kids were online. There was less hands-on materials. However, in my first semester, all the kids were in person, so I was able to use materials. So I found it really, really helpful to prepare those materials ahead of time, whether that be sorting them into baggies so passing out is easier and transitions were clean, okay? So preparing the materials ahead of time and being prepared was really impressive to my classroom teacher and people observing me, of course, but it just makes your lesson go so much smoother, and when that can happen, it's just great. So do the work ahead of time to prepare, whether that be materials or the questions you're going to ask in the lesson, things like that. So then when you're in the lesson, there's less hiccups. There's always going to be things and you're always going to have to think on your toes. But if you can think of ways to avoid certain scenarios, which you'll understand your class and get to know your kids, that's so, so helpful. Okay, number 8 is to set expectations. This was a little more what I had to do going into my second semester because the kids had already had half a year with their teacher, and then I was coming in new and fresh. So when I got up there to teach the first time, it was actually a day she was absent, so I was with a sub and I was doing the teaching. I went up there, I set the expectations, what I expect, no talking, you're paying attention, we're ready to work, things like that, and the kids can live up to the expectations. They just have to know that you have those expectations for while we're teaching. You have expectations for while we're having fun. If your classroom does not have a set behavior management system, you might have to set your own expectations for when you're up there teaching. Your teacher might have other expectations and that's fine, but it's important to set these expectations right away because you will eventually be observed by your professors or the assistant principal or something like that, and you want to know that your kids know how to act while you're up there teaching. It also makes your lessons go easier. I'm not saying be super strict, but it's important that the kids know that you are also an authority in the classroom, and you're going to get up there and you're going to teach them stuff, and you guys are going to have fun and you're going to have a great time, but this is how we're going to do it. Number 9 goes along with this, and it's to have confidence. Get up there, your first lesson, you might be so nervous, but The kids don't need to know that, okay? The kids don't need to know that. Get up there, have your confidence, command the classroom, right? Teach, give them clear directions, everything. And then this confidence will bleed into other lessons, and the kids will automatically know, oh, Miss Martin's going up there to teach. This is how I need to act. This is what I need to do, because you have confidence. If you get up there and you're really weak and you're really shaky, they will just be chaotic. Yes, they might not be too chaotic because your teacher is still in the classroom and she will help you out if that needs to happen, but you want to get up there and you want the kids to know that you are in charge for this 30-minute lesson and this is how it's going to be, and you have the confidence to teach the subject that you're going to teach. So don't be afraid of that, because fake it till you make it, honestly. The kids don't need to know that you're nervous, and they probably never will. This gives your teacher confidence in you, and she might release more responsibilities to you earlier. You never know, because she knows that you can have control of the classroom. So confidence is huge, no matter if you have it or not. Trust me, there are days when I didn't, and sometimes there were observations and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go up there, do my best, have confidence, and the kids will follow along. And they really do. They really adapt well. It's honestly amazing. Number 10, my last one, is to enjoy your time. Honestly, there were some parts that were rough, there were some parts that were slow, there were some parts that seemed to drag on, there were some parts where I was exhausted. But ultimately, enjoy your time, enjoy talking to the kids, enjoy creating, enjoy trying new things when it's not your classroom and when you can make mistakes, because when the last week comes, you're like, where did the time go? And you're really sad sometimes, like I was. If you watch my other vlogs, you will know. But enjoy your every time with your students and all the time that you have, because it'll eventually be over, and eventually you will have a real job and it will be your full classroom, and there's different stress that comes with that. So enjoy your time as a student teacher where you can make the mistakes, because you're learning, right? That's all that matters. You're going to be a great student teacher if that's what you're going into next semester, next year, in the future. Have a lot of fun with the kids, because they're gonna love you. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can see all my new videos. I really hope this brightened your day.